Walking along a path at the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road towards the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and, well, the battle of the books. In the corner by the fire are 3 people. One of them is chanting, "Fight, fight, fight!" And that's me, your co-host, Christina Brown. Welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to connect the great story, the great stories, and our own stories so that we can better understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. Books, in general, are fantastic, but we can all have very different opinions as to why certain books meet the, quote, fantastic criteria, or, honestly, whether or not they are indeed worthy specimens of that title. Today's episode, I am playing moderator to my 2 co-hosts, Mandy Hauk and Matthew Mellema, as they battle it out in the arena, arguing that their book of choice is way better than their opponent's book, which they indeed despise. They have prepped and are ready to fight for their book of choice and take down their opponent, winning you, the audience, over to their side. For this episode, Matt has chosen The Great Gatsby, and Mandy has chosen To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, for those listeners who have not read either of those books or who need a refresher, I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis before we begin. Not of the plot, just of the history. So, let's start with To Kill a Mockingbird. It was written in 1960 by American writer Harper Lee, and it follows the story of Scout and her father, Atticus Finch. It takes place in the fictional town of Macomb, Alabama, during the Great Depression, and deals with the very harsh realities of racial injustice. This novel is loosely based on the author's own experiences as a 10-year-old girl in 1936 in her hometown of Monroeville, Alabama. Lee said of her novel that it's not an autobiography, but an example of, quote, how an author should write about what he knows and write truthfully. It won the Pulitzer Prize the year after it was published and was made into an Academy Award-winning movie by director Robert Mulligan 2 years later. And now, The Great Gatsby. This famous novel was written by American writer Scott Fitzgerald in 1925 during the famous Jazz Age, and is set in Long Island near New York City. The novel depicts the first-person narrator Nick Carraway's interactions with Jay Gatsby, a mysterious millionaire with an obsession to reunite with his former lover, Daisy Buchanan. The novel is set within the libertine and socialite scenes of wealthy upper-class America. Though this novel did receive mixed reviews when it was published, it eventually became Fitzgerald's most celebrated novel. So both of these books are American literary classics, and they've received so much acclaim that they are considered required readings in most high school curriculums in America. So, with the basic background of these novels behind us, Matthew and Mandy, co-hosts extraordinaire, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this.
All right.
I'm sorry, Matt. You're so disadvantaged in this battle. But, whatever. I know you do your best.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like each of you to give an opening argument no longer than 60 seconds as to why your book is best. Matthew, I am going to go with you first.
All right. So it's kind of interesting because both of our books are great books. I will admit this is a little asymmetrical because Mandy, for reasons that say more about her than the book, loathes The Great Gatsby, where I really like To Kill a Mockingbird. I think it's a great book. I just think Great Gatsby's better. But both of these books have in common that they have the same problem, where they're so saturated in American high schools. Like, I read both of these books in high school, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners did too, where, one, we kind of feel like we're familiar with them, even though we really aren't. And two, I feel like that kind of puts a little pall over it. It's like, it's not a real fancy book because that's just something you read in high school. for Gatsby in particular, that is just unwarranted. I truly do believe this is maybe the greatest novel ever written in America. I came across the best book, and I actually read the entire thing yesterday just to prepare for this. I loved it so much. It's called And So We Read On. It's by a professor at Georgetown, English professor at Georgetown called Maureen Corrigan, and its subtitle is How the Great Gatsby Came to Be and Why It Endures.
Okay, your 60 seconds is over. I'm
I
sorry.
will be drawing on it immensely from this. I'll get into the details later.
Yes,
but
you will, because your 60 seconds is up.
Yeah.
Great Gatsby is
Matthew.
perfect.
They're playing you off.
It's perfect.
They're playing you off, Adrian Brody. Get off the stage. So I need to correct a little misconception. I like to say I don't loathe The Great Gatsby. I loathe it when people say it's better than To Kill a Mockingbird, because it is not.
I guess a lot of people must be saying that if you keep...
No, just certain specific people. For me, so as you said, it was published in 1960. Harper Lee actually spent about 10 years writing it. And she did base it loosely on her father and on her growing up years. And one of the things that I think makes To Kill a Mockingbird singular in all of literature, not just compared to Great Gatsby, is that there are so many perspectives presented. And I think the main genius of the book is who Harper Lee chose to be the narrator. The fact that Scout is 6 years old at the beginning, and then she's 9 by the end of the book. It's just the perfect narrator, because it allows, it's a permission to us as the reader to enter in almost a protective way of who the narrator is, and to see all of the things that she's shocked by, that maybe the attitudes that she is shocked by are attitudes that we had already grown callous to or jaded by, or maybe we wouldn't even notice them. And so to me, that is the primary genius. It's also, her prose is gorgeous. All of her characters are just so strongly drawn.
I think your 60 seconds is up too. So I gotta cut you off.
I'm with you. I will stop talking.
No, you had great things to say. All right. So now I need each of you in one sentence.
Oh no.
To say why your opponent's book is not good.
But
it's not as good.
I think her book is good.
Yeah. It's not
as good. One sentence. Throw the darts.
Great Gatsby is a perfect jewel of a book. It is a diamond that is cut in so many facets that any way you turn it, the light goes through at a new and brilliant angle. Every time I reread it, I find something else.
That's another sentence.
Those are sentence.
That's a run-on sentence.
To Kill a Mockingbird is great. It's just I don't get that feeling from it.
It sounds subjective to me.
He's cheating.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing
Yeah, you have your objective scale here. Tell me about all the literature points or whatever.
Well,
one sentence. Let's go.
Why Great Gatsby is not... I'm going to follow directions.
I know Mr. Rule Follower over here.
My point was, it's not that To Kill a Mockingbird's bad. It's just Great Gatsby is... It's the best. It's uniquely good.
But do you have anything negative to say about To Kill a Mockingbird? Because she's...
Not especially.
Well,
I think it's good.
I think I win.
Yeah, I think you win.
I do. So my issue with Great Gatsby, first of all, I love Mr. Fitzgerald, but some of the ways that he writes are, it's a little bit, he's very adverb heavy, and there are certain things that I don't appreciate about his writing. And also, I don't think his narrator is quite as compelling. I don't find the characters compelling. My issue with Great Gatsby...
Where's the one sentence in here?
Sorry.
Y'all, I might have to give you guys this assignment one more time here. I need one sentence from you, Matthew. Short. You're a writer. You could do this. And then from you, Mandy.
Okay.
Go. I'm moderating.
I have my sentence already if you want.
To Kill a Mockingbird is good prose. Great Gatsby is outstanding prose.
Okay. Mandy.
No, I had what I was going to say, but I want so badly to respond to what he just said, but I won't. The characters in Great Gatsby are not as deeply drawn and not as I don't feel connected to them in the way that I feel
False.
connected to Kill a Mockingbird. You can't say how I feel is false.
You're feeling wrongly.
So are you, good sir. Let me smack you with my gloves.
Oh my goodness. All right. So now I would like just a very brief plot summary from each of you so that the listeners can sort of get in the vibe of like, okay, so here's the plot summary of Great Gatsby. Here's the one To Kill a Mockingbird. Now I'm really feeling that I wanna get in with this co-host.
So the thing about The Great Gatsby is it's not plot driven, but it's also not a character study. It's really
Exactly.
It's driven by the prose and by the ideas, and that's what makes it so spectacular. Like the plot summary is going to sound silly. It's a poor.
Yeah,
It
does. It does sound silly.
It's a poor kid from South Dakota who
Nick Carraway.
Jay Gatz,
Yeah, Jay Gatsby.
Never
is
mind.
The
He's
right.
the one. Okay, got it.
who falls in love with the selfish rich girl.
Yep.
Loses the girl when he goes off to World War I to a rich jerk. But he makes a fortune in bootlegging and other underhanded activities in a pointless attempt to win back the girl.
I'm sorry, pointless?
But not really
Daisy
the girl.
Buchanan.
Yeah, Daisy. The girl, but really something beyond that. He's reaching, he is a striver, he is in some ways the American dream, in some ways the human condition put into a man. Can I read a passage?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Because my goodness, I love this so much. Here's a description of Jay Gatsby, as told by Nick Carraway, who's the neighbor / friend of Jay Gatsby. He's sort of he's sort of a secondary character, also the narrator.
Yes.
All right. So
Who is from a Midwestern town himself.
they're all from the Midwest. They move out to New York into fancy
Long Island
neighborhoods.
area, yeah.
Okay. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have an unaffected scorn. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life, as if you're related to one of those intricate machines that register earthquakes 10,000 miles away. This responsiveness had nothing to do with that flabby impressionability, which is dignified under the name of creative temperament. It was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I've never found in any other person, and which it is not likely I shall ever find again. No, Gatsby turned out all right in the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men. Yes.
So that was instead of a plot summary?
So that
What happened to rule following
No,
Matt?
That was the plot summary. I told you the plot is about
What happens?
a poor kid falls in love with a selfish rich girl, becomes a rich bootlegger to try to win her back, and he can't. He's destroyed by forces outside his control because you can't go back, you can't relive the past, you can't escape your history, you cannot attain the unattainable. But there's something beautiful, even if doomed, in the striving, in the attempt. Gatsby is a fool. He's also a genius. He is all of us. He is none of us.
Filibustering.
I was like, this is a closing argument. This is not a plot synopsis.
I don't know.
It's not a plot-driven book. Like, the plot's really secondary.
Because it's silly.
You of all people should know that great books can have very, very basic plots.
I know. Beautiful and doomed. That is, I like those words. Those are good. So respect, sir. But
Anyway, Gatsby is murdered at the end.
yeah,
Yes. All of these people are lazy
by
sleazes.
Daisy's husband.
It's all
No.
sad.
No.
Or no. Sorry.
Do you want? Okay, I'll give you the full plot, so it won't
Daisy's
take long. 'Cause
husband's mistress's
Right,
husband.
husband.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, the tangled webs.
Yes.
That's right. Sorry. Okay, so To Kill a Mockingbird. So now it's going to come back and bite me because it's hard to plot summarize To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh.
So one of the things with To Kill a Mockingbird that one of the things I love about it is because it doesn't just feel like a linear plot. It is like the whole, it's a world, and it is, as I said, Scout being the narrator is the most brilliant part about it because it's what she is seeing in her 6-year-old to 9-year-old eyes. And it's what she's observing around her, all of her neighbors, her family. So some of the things that occur in the book are the central plot, I guess, is the trial of Tom Robinson. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got confused because Tom is also in Gatsby. Anyway, but so there's a trial, and for rape of
falsely
a
accused,
white
right?
woman. He's falsely accused of raping a white woman, and Scout's father is defying what the rest of the town wants from him, and he is defending this man that the whole town thinks is guilty. And so it follows Scout and her brother Jem watching their father do this heroic act of defying the prejudice and the will of the people around him and defending this innocent man, which it ends up not working. But he does such a good job at the trial that the accuser, Bob Ewell, ends up disgraced. And so then he actually tries to kill the children at the end. But within that, the story that I love even more is the Boo Radley story, which is the neighborhood recluse that Jem and Scout and their neighbor boy Dill, who most people probably know this, Dill is based on the real life author Truman Capote, who was Harper Lee's childhood neighbor and friend. And there really was a recluse in their neighborhood. And so the parallel stories are just beautiful because the children are so curious about this man that the whole town has made all these stories about that end up also not being true. And then he ends up saving Jem and Scout from Bob Ewell. So, and let me read a passage because if this
I'm
isn't...
sure the prose will be good.
It will be excellent. So this is at the end of the book after Jem has been wounded. His arm is hurt from Bob Ewell, but Boo Radley has saved them and carried Jem home. And so this is Scout being carried to her bed by Atticus because she was falling asleep, and she's talking to him as he's
Her father.
her father, Atticus.
Okay. Yeah.
So she's talking as he's getting her ready for bed. He unhooked my overalls, leaned me against him, and pulled them off. He held me up with one hand and reached for my pajamas with the other. Yeah, and they all thought it was stoner boys messing up their clubhouse and throwing ink all over it, and he guided me to the bed and sat me down. He lifted my legs and put me under the cover. And they chased him and never could catch him because they didn't know what he looked like. And Atticus, when they finally saw him, why, he hadn't done any of those things. Atticus, he was real nice. His hands were under my chin, pulling up the cover, tucking it around me. Most people are, Scout, when you finally see them. He turned out the light and went into Jem's room. He would be there all night, and he would be there when Jem waked up in the morning.
Nice.
So one of the things I love is that she can make the prose lovely. But that's not the most lovely passage in the whole book, but it's the ending, and that's one of my favorite endings of any book in the world. But he can make it beautiful. She makes it beautiful, but it still sounds like it's Scout. And that's a challenge to write something from a 6 to 9-year-old child and make it sound like their voice, but also sound beautiful at the same time.
So, to that point, one of the criticisms of the book, and again, I like the book, okay, but
I like your book
that
too.
she kind of which would you say is more accurate? Because when I read through it, I think of it as a grown-up Scout writing like remembering what happened.
Oh yeah, I have read that criticism before. Some people,
do you think that's what's going on, or do you think she's actually writing it from a 6-year-old self? It does not read like 6-year-old. To me, it reads like an adult remembering being 6, which is fine. It's just that's how.
Yeah,
I read
you're
it.
right. I had actually forgotten about that criticism, to be transparent. Like that's one of the criticisms, was that it sounds like it goes back and forth between her 6-year-old, 9-year-old voice and an adult voice. I still like it.
Okay.
I'm just acknowledging the criticism.
Yeah. In fairness, I have not read many like novels where any narrator was supposed to be talking in a 6-year-old voice. It sounded like a 6-year-old.
So it's, when I read it, because I did teach it as an English teacher, and I always read it when the kids read it, so I would make sure that I was on track with them when we would do our Socratic seminars each week. And so to me, when she falls into the kid voice and falls out of the kid voice, to me, it's like I look at it as a memory. And so I think there are times when we're remembering things. You know, when you remember things, you go back in time in your mind. And so it never did bother me. I understand it bothers some people.
I'll be honest, it doesn't bother me either. Like to me, it's just like it's an adult remembering what it was like when they were a kid.
Right.
Like to me, that's the narrator. And
specifically when she goes deep into a specific scene, it's almost like she's regressing a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to address one point.
Okay.
And that's what you did about the characterization in Gatsby. So again, Gatsby, it's only 180 pages. Like, it's very short. I think it's 9.
Do you think that makes
chapters.
it better?
I do, actually. Like, if you can do the same thing with fewer words, I think that's
okay. But what do you mean by the same thing, though? Because I mean, the story in Great Gatsby is much tighter overall than the story in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Everything is so tight in The Great Gatsby. Like, there's no wasted scenes. There's no wasted dialogue. There's no wasted words. There's no wasted punctuation.
I don't think there's wasted anything. It's a different intention from the author. That's a totally different intention.
Gatsby is like literature redux. It's like there's nothing.
He achieved his goal in making it a tight story, but I don't think Harper Lee was trying to make hers a tight story. So I don't think that's a fair comparison criticism.
I'm not criticizing Harper Lee. I'm just praising F. Scott Fitzgerald. And so let me give you an example of the characterization.
Did what they intended.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah. But I think F. Scott Fitzgerald has this ability in The Great Gatsby to characterize these different characters. A lot of them are bad characters. Most of the characters are selfish,
unlikable.
Pretty much all of them.
Unlikable.
And to be fair, that is part of the reason I don't like it. I don't like hanging out with people that I don't like. And so that is a point that it's good that it's short, because you don't have to be with them for long.
So a couple things to that. One, again, every time I reread it, I find something else that I like. This time, the thing that stuck out to me is Nick Carraway, the narrator / side character, he's so funny. He's really funny. I love his observations. I love his little asides that he puts, his commentary on like the foibles and like the silliness of the world around him. But also Fitzgerald has such a gift for capturing a character's essence in just a few lines. Like the femme fatale character, Daisy Buchanan, Daisy Faye, as Gatsby knew him back in the day.
Right.
So the girl who's sort of the object of Jay Gatsby's desire, she's not portrayed as like a drop-dead gorgeous beauty, but she has this allure that we all understand instantly. And she's also like a distant cousin of Nick's. So at the beginning of the book, Daisy and her jerk rich guy husband Tom invite Nick over for dinner. And here's the description of Daisy, explaining her allure. I think this is such a great paragraph.
It's so Roaring Twenties.
I looked back at my cousin, who began to ask me questions in her low, thrilling voice. It was the kind of voice that the ear follows up and down, as if each speech is an arrangement of notes that will never be played again. Her face was sad and lovely, with bright things in it, bright eyes and a bright, passionate mouth. But there was an excitement in her voice that men who had cared for her found difficult to forget, a singing compulsion, a whispered listen, a promise that she had done gay, exciting things just a while since, and that there were gay, exciting things hovering in the next hour. Like, I will say that
That's
line,
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
line, a whispered listen.
Yeah.
I love it. That's the sort of line that, like, it stuck out to me. Like, I've reread this book several times, but there's so many passages rereading. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that because they stick in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know that one of the original covers, which is actually on the book that you have, was partly was done before his novel was finished? So the cover on some of the books was by an artist, Francis Cugat, I think, or Cugat. Anyway, and it's entitled Celestial Eyes. And if you notice that passage of Daisy Buchanan,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's a cover design with with eyes in the night sky and a
Right.
cityscape.
And then the little red lips.
And the little red rouge lips.
Yep.
And so apparently Fitzgerald loved this cover design so much, it continually inspired his manuscript.
Oh, that's really cool.
Isn't that funny?
My book has the original cover too.
Oh, very cool.
My original cover.
Well, I don't think that cover was actually used originally. I think that
Oh,
was
funny.
so I think, I could be wrong, but I think that was just like an initial concept, and
Right.
he fell in love with it, and it continued to inspire his story.
So some of the things you said, I think illuminate why you like your book better and why I like my book better.
Well, first, I love that, but first, I actually want to backtrack a bit, because it's not just about why you guys love each other's books better. I need you guys to win over our audience. So, and I find it easier to do here by going back to the source. So, what can you guys tell us about the authors of your books? And, like, is there something that you really identify with for both of them? Is there something about them you're like, I just really love this about them, or I empathize with them about this, or I admire this quality, or I wish I could be like this, or I don't know, just something. Is there something about the author's life? Okay, cool. You go.
So Harper Lee, like I said, it took her, like, she was writing this book for a long time.
Yeah,
like,
born in 1926, right? And then died in 2016, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when she was writing the book, she was writing it from her 20s into her 30s.
Mm-hmm.
She had gone to law school, and much to her father's chagrin, she dropped out without getting her degree. So she disappointed her father. But that long, part of the reason that it was so hard for her to get it written was because she kept not believing in herself. And she kept thinking that nobody was going to want to read it. And she moved to New York just to sort of force herself to believe in herself. But then it was so expensive. She had to work all these jobs. She was like an airport gate, agent. And then she was, I think she worked at a bookstore or something. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But so she did get an agent. She was writing in her spare time, but as we all know, that's really hard to just write in your spare time. So in 1956, some friends of hers gave her a Christmas gift of a year's wages.
I remember that.
And the note was, you have 1 year off from your job to write whatever you please. And so that was in 1956. And so she finished it over the next couple of years, and then it was published in 1960. But she said, I'm looking up this quote that she said just a few years later.
After it was published?
Yes.
Yeah.
So after it was published, I have too many photos in my photo library. Where are my current photos? This is very annoying. There it is. I'm sorry. She said, I never expected any sort of success with Mockingbird. I was hoping for a quick and merciful death at the hands of the reviewers. But at the same time, I sort of hoped someone would like it enough to give me encouragement. Public encouragement. I hoped for a little, as I said, but I got rather a whole lot. And in some ways, this was just about as frightening as the quick, merciful death I'd expected. And so I love that. She was super hilarious. She was very sharp-witted. I love the way she lived out her whole life. It was just her and her sister. They lived together.
I was going to ask if she ever married.
No, she never married. She and her sister lived together.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Also, fun fact, her real first name was Nell, she was named after her grandmother. They spelled her name backwards because her grandmother's name was Ellen. And so she went by Nell in real life, but the reason she wanted to go by Harper Lee, because it was Nell Harper Lee, is she could not handle the idea that anyone would call her Nellie. And she thought they would call her Nellie. So I also love the way she just absolutely loved her father. She also, when they made the movie, she was on set almost the whole time. She absolutely loved Gregory Peck. She gave him her father's pocket watch at the end of the filming. There were years after the movie was made that people approached her with money to make another version, and she refused. She would not let anyone, because she said Gregory Peck did it. It was already done. So I love her integrity, her resistance. She stayed in her hometown her whole life. And I kind of love the stubborn, like, sassiness of her, and you can sort of see she really kind of was Scout.
Yeah, she was.
Also, by the way, she and Truman Capote, on whom Dill was based, they, a year after To Kill a Mockingbird, she helped him research his huge book, In Cold Blood, which was based on a true murder. Multiple murder. What am I trying to say? Mass murder? Not mass. Anyway, it was a murder of a whole family.
The proto true crime book.
Yes, it was the proto true crime book. And I will say there is very good evidence that Harper, she's my friend. I can call her Nell. That Harper Lee actually wrote In Cold Blood a lot more than Truman did. People have analyzed the writing. Also, Truman was extremely unlikable. This is not news. Anyone who knows about Truman Capote knows this. And so the reason that she had to help him research the book is because nobody in the town would talk to him because he was such a butt. And so she's the one who got all the interviews that went into the book and did all the research. And then he didn't really give her credit.
I was going to ask if they had a falling out. I felt like,
yes.
Okay. Oh, that's sad. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So, but anyway, I just love who she is. And I feel like who she is shines out of the prose in the book.
Okay.
So,
all right. Wonderful argument. Matthew?
Thank you.
Well, like I mentioned, I cannot recommend this book highly enough. So We Read On by Maureen Corrigan. I read it yesterday, just in a day. I just couldn't stop reading it. It's a biography of Fitzgerald, also showing like the continuing impact of Gatsby, but I don't generally like or seek out that stuff about authors. A lot of times when I find out information about authors, I'd rather not know it. But Fitzgerald was a really fascinating person, and in some ways similar to Harper Lee, in the sense that, one, we already talked about how they have both the blessing and the curse of having their work read by every high schooler. And two, both of them only really wrote one great novel.
Yep.
Harper Lee, this was really the only novel. Go Set a Watchman. It's a
we're not
draft.
talking about Go Set a Watchman.
It's a curiosity, not a book.
There's even arguments that she didn't even really write it, so I haven't read it.
It was published like when she was like, what, 88?
Yeah. And basically it's a rough
against
draft.
her will by her greedy lawyer.
Ugh.
So, but then Gatsby wrote 4 novels, but the other 3, they're anywhere from okay to good. But this is his only great novel. So,
although isn't it true, Matthew, that at the time it did worse than his other ones, and he just felt like a failure?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
they both felt.
So to that point, Fitzgerald's life mirrored his artwork in a lot of important ways. So he was born in Minnesota. His dad lost his job early on, so he had to move to like upstate New York. His dad's sort of barely scraping by. F. Scott Fitzgerald later, because
he was born in 1896, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
and died in 1943?
Died in 1940.
40,
So he was,
okay.
he was 44
Yeah,
and died of
44
a
years
heart
old.
attack, but really from all the years of too much drinking.
Sure.
But he gets like a scholarship from a wealthy relative to go to like a fancy Catholic boys' school. And while he's there, he keenly feels the fact that he's going with all these rich kids. He's the non-rich kid. And he's just acutely aware of that. He has this desire. He just needs to be liked. And it's like, oh, bless your heart. He just tries too hard.
He's Nick.
he's not really Nick.
Okay.
Because Nick is actually from that higher social class.
Well, yeah, but he's still on the outside. But you go ahead.
So Fitzgerald just tries too hard to fit in, and we all know from high school, the nerd who desperately wants the approval of the cool kids, it never works. It always backfires. So that's what happened to F. Scott Fitzgerald in high school. Then he goes on to Princeton, and again, he's in the same situation. He's the one poor kid. He acutely feels the stigma. The harder he tries to gain acceptance into like the glittering world of the rich kids, the more they shun him. So he eventually goes back home when he's, I think, 18 or 19, falls in love with this Chicago socialite named Ginevra King. They have sort of an on-again, off-again relationship. He falls madly in love with this super wealthy, pretty girl. She kind of gets bored with him. And he is so devastated that he kind of drops out of Princeton and joins the army. To his everlasting chagrin, he didn't actually see combat during World War I. The war ended too soon. But then he gets back, falls in love with another Southern belle this time named Zelda. And they eventually do get married. And during their 20s, Fitzgerald has sudden, just shocking success with his first two novels, This Side of Paradise and The Beautiful and the Damned. They're financially successful. They propel him to be like the literary sensation, the voice of this generation. And him and Zelda go wild during the 20s.
Yes.
Like they really go wild. Even though he made a lot of money from the book, he lives way beyond his means, gets way into debt. Zelda and him are famous for like being wild party guests. There's all these notorious stories about them. But then before Zelda turns 30, she has a complete mental breakdown. So she ends up having what they diagnosed at the time as schizophrenia, maybe something else, but she's just completely out of it. He, by this time, the thing is, he writes The Great Gatsby between the ages of 26 and 28. Oof. And at the time...
So he wrote it before her breakdown.
He wrote it right before her breakdown.
Because she was 4 years younger, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know exactly, but yeah.
When was they had one kid, right?
They had one kid, Scotty.
When was that in this?
I think Scotty was little during this time.
Okay.
But he's writing it between 26 and 28, again, living beyond his means, and he was really counting on Gatsby to be a runaway success, and it wasn't. It sold way worse than his other books. It did okay, but it was a huge disappointment for him. Got kind of mixed reviews. By this time, he'd been pigeonholed as like the jazz age guy, right? And he's still pigeonholed to a certain degree like that. So then his 30s are kind of a disaster. He's horrendously in debt. He's paying the money he doesn't have to pay for Zelda's care in like various mental institutions. Goes to Hollywood when he's like 40 to try to, and he has like hack work for like various scripts, and ends up dying of a heart attack at 44. And when he died, he considered himself a failure whose work was very soon to be forgotten. So in a lot of ways, his life almost mirrors Jay Gatsby in a lot of ways. His funeral was poorly attended, just like Gatsby's was. He kind of connects with a lot of these same things, but the elements of Fitzgerald that really come through are this attitude, this sort of obsession with class. This idea of like there's a certain people who are born into money versus the people who are either poor or like Gatsby, the self-made man. The idea that the self-made man can't ever really fully connect, and you can see his high school and college experience reflected in that, and also this idea of like the observer. He's there in these lavish places with these wealthy people, but he's never fully integrated into it. And this just grinded on him. And that's reflected in his writing.
Isn't it also reflected in his character of Gatsby, who is also a self-made rich person? And when Daisy Buchanan finds that out because he's doing illegal bootlegging, she rejects him and goes back to her husband?
Well, so here's the thing. So for a while, and let me just drop this little tidbit. So the book is 180 pages long. Gatsby reunites with Daisy at page 90. So precisely midway through the book. It's just so well crafted. But so again, going back to the plot of the story, Gatsby falls in love with Daisy when he's like a army man stationed in Louisville. She's like the Southern belle of the ball there. And they kind of have this very passionate, very short-lived romance before he goes off to World War II. She gets bored, marries the rich guy, Tom Buchanan. Gatsby comes back and determines he's going to win Daisy back. And again, part of it is trying to reclaim the past. Part of it is he's enamored with this one woman. But part of it is...
World War One, by the way, sorry.
Did I say World War II?
Yeah.
Oh, World War One. Yeah. So so he's just striving, right? He's always striving, trying to get it, trying to reclaim everything. And yeah, for a while, toward the 60% of the book, through the way of the book, it appears, Nick's not privy to this, that Daisy and Gatsby are having a kind of pretty torrid, adulterous affair, right? And seems to be going really well for Gatsby. But then it's revealed at the end, Daisy doesn't really feel that way about Gatsby. Daisy loves him in a way, but she also loves Tom and his money and this whole lifestyle. And when Gatsby is killed at the end, Daisy kind of just moves on. Her and Tom just all right, we're going to Europe.
I think you just did the plot summary that we asked for 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, well, there it is. But yeah, that just shows the asymmetrical nature of the relationship, right? Gatsby desires her more than anything. Daisy's she's sort of floating above it all on her money.
But yeah, it's a very interesting concept of both of these authors really kind of finding themselves in the books, although they would both deny a lot of autobiographical elements. But again, so why are these books deserving of acclaim? Mandy?
So I think, as I was saying earlier, the narrator choice is perfect because you are able to get so many perspectives, because this is this precocious child who, it's a small enough town that she knows everyone and she knows them pretty well. And so as she's just running through the neighborhood and going over to the neighbors' houses, and then so one of the key things about this, and this is something just real quick, one interesting thing that's different about these two books is Gatsby, Fitzgerald wrote that in the time that it was set. So it was set in the 20s and he wrote it in the 20s. So for To Kill a Mockingbird, it's set in the early 30s, but she wrote it in the 60s. And what's fascinating and important about that is the setting is Jim Crow South and the Depression. So you have the Depression is affecting the white farmers, like the family, the Cunninghams, that are prominent in the book. So you see what's happening to the Cunninghams because of the Depression. But then you see what's happening to Tom Robinson and to Calpurnia, the family's maid, because of their race, and they're in Jim Crow South. And here is this innocent child who's seeing it and not really understanding it, but coming to understand it. And that's how you're it's like she holds your hand and walks you through the book, and you're holding her hand more like. And so, but then when it's published, it's 1960, which is right when...
Was anything happening during that time?
No, nothing at all. 1954 was Brown versus Board of Education, and then the civil rights and all these things are happening in 1960. So it's just this perfect sort of convergence of the setting and the publication date.
Yeah.
But in particular, if you think about it, who is that character that talks about Hitler? Miss Gates. So there's one character. This is the perfect example of what I really feel like the depth and the richness in this book is, that here is Scout listening to her neighbor, Miss Gates, who's ranting about Hitler and his anti-Semitism at the exact same time that she's totally anti-Tom Robinson and totally supports the discriminatory culture and the Jim Crow laws against the blacks. And she doesn't see it at all. But because we as readers are looking through Scout's eyes, the eyes of a child who's they can see better than we can in some way, because all the adults are blinded to their own prejudices. And so that aspect of it, but then also, like I said, the struggle of all of the people, whether they're white or black, and the sensitivity and the empathy that Harper Lee gives you, even for the people like Miss Gates who's being a butt. You know, like there's a humanity to this novel. None of the characters are perfect. Even the ones that are good are not perfect. But overarchingly, nobody is what you think they are on the surface. No one is who you think they are on the surface.
Even Scout?
Even Scout, really, because she grows and changes and learns. And so that's why, to me, it just feels, when I read To Kill a Mockingbird, I feel like I'm going into a world. And I don't think a lot of books do that. Like, it's not just that I'm reading and hanging and like learning about the characters, but I feel like it's this whole world that you step into. I think...
So you don't step into Gatsby's world, in Fitzgerald's world, I should say?
I feel a detachment, which I think is partly because the culture was a detached culture. So that, I mean, that's almost by design.
Like,
and so
libertines, socialites.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like keeping up appearances.
Yeah, wealthy, upper class.
Right.
Yeah.
But because you have, and by the way, a similarity of our books is that the main character isn't the narrator. Don't you think that's interesting? I thought of that. Because in each of our cases, the narrator is more kind of on the side, and they're telling the story that they're observing.
That is true. Both of them, the main character is, the narrator is a side character, and the narrator's point of view becomes a very big point in analyzing the text.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. But I also wanted to read just another paragraph that I absolutely loved. It's one of my favorites. Jem stayed moody and silent for a week. As Atticus had once advised me to do, I tried to climb into Jem's skin and walk around in it. If I had gone alone to the Radley place at 2 a.m, my funeral would have been held the next afternoon. So I left Jem alone and tried not to bother him. And to me, that's exactly that is such an encapsulation of, you hear her voice. She's a little girl. She's sassy. My funeral would have been the next afternoon. But then you have these gorgeous phrases like I tried to climb into Jem's skin and walk around in it.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
You know?
That's really great.
Yeah. So that, I feel like that's what's different to me about To Kill a Mockingbird is just that you really have walked into this world with this little girl, and you're seeing what she sees, and you're appalled by what you're supposed to be appalled by. And do
you think that being from the eyes of a little girl helps with like the poignancy of the story hitting the reader?
Absolutely, because she is not jaded. Like if Atticus had told the story, it would have been intellectual.
Okay.
If Miss Gates had told the story, it would have been prejudiced.
Yeah.
If Calpurnian told the story, that might have been fun. But so there's something about her. I mean, my favorite kind of story is coming of age. Absolutely love coming of age stories. And that's really what this is. But then you add to it the fact that she's outside looking in, and she's looking at all these people, and she's watching all the adults around her behave in ways that are right and wrong and confusing and hypocritical and violent and sad. And by the end, that's why the ending is so poignant when she says, "Oh, and he was actually nice." Like, she's realizing, I don't have to believe what everyone tells me about who other people are. I need to walk around in their skin. I need to actually be open to who they are. And some people are going to be flawed. But yeah, it's just like her wonder, but then also there's a little bit of sass at the same time.
Do you think you would have felt differently about The Great Gatsby if Nick Carraway was a young,
was younger
boy? Yeah.
A 6-year-old boy? I would hope Nick Carraway as a 6-year-old boy would not have been at the party.
Well, yeah. But what if he was like the son of, I don't know, John Carraway?
Yeah,
and
maybe
so
if he
who
were
was at the party?
Okay, maybe if it were, you know what? If it were a coming of age, if Nick were like a teenager,
right.
I couldn't see him being 6, but I understand what you're saying.
13.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. If it were a coming of age, and if his perspective were more of a innocent learning perspective, maybe I would have. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I was just going to ask, because I know I asked you if Harper's novel, why it was worthy of acclaim, and then I wanted to ask you the same question about Great Gatsby.
Yeah, I feel like it is worthy of acclaim because, again, it's it's 180 pages of condensed, tautly pulled like literature that is so intricate. It's levels within levels. It's symmetrical. It's you can look at it within wheels. It's so dense with symbolism. Like the AP English test symbolism. There's the eyes of Dr. Eckelberg and the green light. But there's so many other symbols. And once you really get into the weeds of it, you see how densely packed this is. There's the symbolism of color. There's symbolism of water and drowning. There's symbolism of reaching, of one lover reaching for the other. That's just getting to the surface of it. You can read it in different ways over and over and over again. I started rereading it for the podcast, and it was a delight just to get back into the language, to get inside the head of Nick Carraway. Like I said, every time I read it, I get something else out of it. And this time, the thing that struck me is it's really funny. Like, Nick has this sort of ironic approach to the characters. He's there to kind of point them out to the audience, like about the ridiculousness of them, the vapidness of them. And the message of The Great Gatsby is one that it's what great literature should do. It defies easy, pat answers. Some people look at it as like being nihilistic or empty or just being like anti-America or whatever. And you can read it that way, but you see from Nick, as he's sort of appraising things at the end, acknowledging Gatsby's downfall, because again, he's a kid of immense talent. He raises himself out of nothing through his own effort. He makes a huge fortune. He throws the best parties. He's notorious all over New York, but it ends up pointless. He can't get it. He can't get Daisy. Even then, it's not even Daisy herself. It's the idea of Daisy anymore than he can go and reclaim the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all futile, but his striving, his attempts at it, there's something kind of admirable and beautiful in that, and it defies easy explanation. And let's just get to the last couple paragraphs here, because again, I think this is about the best close any book can possibly have.
Well, other than To Kill a Mockingbird.
Well, but so at the end of the book, Gatsby's been murdered in this sort of stupid string of events that's brought about by Daisy, and he's had his funeral. Nobody really goes except for Nick and Gatsby's pathetic old father, who's like pathetically proud of him. And he's buried and just forgotten. So Nick is going out to the shore of Gatsby's home. It's now deserted, and there's the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. And you all remember the significance of the green light from high school English class, but he sort of goes big with it, right? So it's a longer section, but listeners, it's worth it, okay?
It's funny that my book is longer, but he is reading longer passages.
Well, that's because, when every word of a book is perfect, you're going to read long passages.
I think it would be kind of the opposite. I think.
All right, here we go. Here we go. So here's Nick. Most of the big shore places were closed now, and there were hardly any lights except the shadowy, moving glow of a ferry boat across the sound. And as the moon rose higher, the inessential houses began to melt away, till gradually I became aware of the old island here that flowered once for Dutch sailors' eyes, a fresh green breast of the New World. Its vanished trees, the trees that had made way for Gatsby's house, had once pandered in whispers for the last and greatest of all human dreams. For a transitory enchanted moment, man must have held his breath in the presence of this continent, compelled into an aesthetic contemplation he neither understood nor desired, face to face for the last time in history with something commensurate for his capacity for wonder. And as I sat there brooding on the old, unknown world, I thought of Gatsby's wonder when he first picked out the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. He had come a long way to this blue lawn, and his dream must have seemed so close that he could hardly fail to grasp it. He did not know that it was already behind him, somewhere back in that vast obscurity beyond the city, where the dark fields of the Republic rolled on under the night. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and then one fine morning. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Oh, it's so good.
Man, he is a beautiful writer.
Yeah.
He really is. So, all right, we have just a couple last questions. We need to close down this argument. I really need you guys to bring it home for our listeners because they're going to have to pick up one or the other.
Oh, they can pick up both.
They can pick up both. People
You're
can read
assuming
2 books.
People have lots of time on their hands.
Gatsby,
So
the
I'm
audiobook of
just saying.
Gatsby is 5 hours.
That's a lot of hours in my world. But I don't know where your world is. But that's a lot of time. Okay, so basically, you both had already kind of talked about the writing style. So we'd already kind of talked about that. You talked about the characters, why it was deserving of acclaim. You talked about, both of you actually talked a little bit about like why you thought it was effective literature. Part of it was the time in which it was written. Part of it was the writing. Part of it was the perspective, the POV of the characters. So I think all of those were really good points. I don't think I have further questions, but I do wanted to know if you guys had any last arguments.
Oh, I have a last word.
Please.
I would like Matt to give his last word first so that my last word can be the actual last word.
Okay.
Well, let me start off by saying, again, the thing that really ties these 2 books together, the reason they fit so well together is that these are the 2 books that I can almost guarantee all the listeners read in high school. And again, that is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, as a former English teacher, I took that very seriously, because I knew whatever I assigned had the stain of I have to read this.
Yep.
And that is really hard as an English teacher.
Which is why I wanted you guys to sell this to our listeners who do not have to read these.
No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I remember in high school, I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm kind of using air quotes.
Why did you use air? Oh, because you were in high school. Okay.
I was in high school, so I have this vivid memory of like skimming through it.
Yeah,
so
because you had math homework too.
Yeah, and like I skimmed it well enough to pass the like reading quiz on it. Again, I thought it was a good book at the time.
Yeah.
I enjoy it more now. But for me, even as a high schooler, I think I read it when I was 17, Great Gatsby really stuck out to me. I think part of it, it's not the case for everyone. I think Gatsby is kind of a dude book. Like, I think it's a book that appeals to this certain, it's one of those books that appeals to a certain sort of adolescent male. I was that adolescent male.
I think it appeals to a certain type of person because it's my sister's all-time favorite book.
I was going to ask you too because you taught a bunch of high school males. So, I mean, I want you to keep with your argument.
But I did not assign The Great Gatsby.
Well,
that's true.
Other teachers assign that.
We have a future episode, readers, about whether novels are more of a woman's. We're going to talk into it more.
But I think it appeals to an intellectual, bold kind of person.
Well, and also, there's the striving after the surface level stuff, the striving after the girl who seems unattainable, not feeling like you're able to break in with the crowd because of all the things you can't control, striving knowing that it might be meaningless at the end. All these things really appealed to me as a 17-year-old of this certain disposition. And I really enjoyed The Great Gatsby when I read it in high school. I love it even more now. And I would say the danger of having it assigned, other than, like you said, the stain, is this sort of snide remark, the sort of like, that's the one book you read in high school, so that's your favorite book, right? Like, right. I feel like there's a tendency for a lot of us to feel like the books we read in high school are somehow lesser.
Yeah, agreed.
And that is not the case for either of these books. These are two of the greatest books in American history. Yes. Like, they really, I really believe that. And, the fact that I first discovered this at 17 and it's even better for me now as a 38-year-old just shows how powerful 180 pages can be.
Well, and I will say, like,
it's a great closing argument.
Yeah. So as an English teacher, I did not make it possible for my kids to skim the books. I had them keep a reading journal and they had to write their reactions.
I remember keeping those journals.
Oh, mine was special.
Yeah,
I
had my methods.
You sound like...
I had very specific parameters.
It's a good thing you weren't my teacher, then you would have caught me.
Oh, there was no way to get around my reading journal, buddy. Anyway, but actually, because of that, a lot of my kids who quote unquote hated reading, to this day, they love reading. Like, so it's been pretty cool. Because it's not me as a teacher. It's just because I prevented them from skimming. Because when they skim it, they don't realize that they're not getting into the depth of it. But anyway, another thing that I would do for To Kill a Mockingbird, when the book, so we would discuss it every week in a Socratic seminar. And then at the end of when the novel was done, I would bring in a lane cake. That's a recipe in the book. Let me tell you, sugar coma. I should make a lane cake sometime for an Anselm event because dang, it's first of all, it's like a 3-day process.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, but it's really
Is it famous
good.
like shoe fly pie kind of thing? Like shoe fly pie is like just like brown sugar pie.
No, it would take 3 days to explain. Anyway, no,
All right,
it's just a lot of, the cake is a whole thing, the filling is a different thing, and the frosting is a whole other thing.
Sounds
And you have to make them separately, and yeah. But anyway, but my kids, they all loved the book, even the ones who didn't like reading it, because we would talk about the characters, and the characters were people that they could like dissect and relate to and understand. But my final word is the Library Journal in 1999 declared To Kill a Mockingbird the best book of the century.
Oh.
And that is the end of my argument.
That's a pretty, I mean, if you're quoting the library, I mean,
Yeah,
you gotta.
Well,
it's true.
Hunter S. Thompson once typed out the entire manuscript of The Great Gatsby because he wanted to get a feel for how it was to write that way.
Okay.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
I don't typically aspire to be Hunter S. Thompson, but thanks. I appreciate that anecdote. But I know we're supposed to hate on each other's books, but it's hard when I mean, that it is, I'm sorry, it is not as good as To Kill a Mockingbird. It's just not.
I mean, we're talking gold and silver for me here. But honestly,
Yeah,
for
so
me,
To Kill a Mockingbird is gold. Got it.
I will be honest. So
No, To
there's
Kill a Mockingbird is platinum.
to me, there's several candidates for Great American Novel.
Yeah.
Right. I think To Kill a Mockingbird, it makes the list. The other ones that I think
the
are
top,
leading
yeah.
contenders, there's Great Gatsby, there's Invisible Man, and there's Huckleberry Finn. I really think if you just look what captures everything of America, it's Great Gatsby. And just in terms of the I have stolen. Can I tell you? You have your hand raised, but I need to tell you this anecdote. I directly stole a prose formulation from one of F. Scott Fitzgerald's short stories in my middle grade novel.
I just
stole it because it was so informative for me.
The Great Gatsby is tight and crisp and shiny.
Yes.
To Kill a Mockingbird is deep and rich, and you want to live there. That's what I think.
All right.
So,
Audience, you need to vote. Who has won the battle of the book?
thank you, everyone. I appreciate this honor. I would like to thank...
In order to have a real opinion, you'd have to read both books, by
Well,
the
they
way.
probably have. But if all you
They
did
read
was...
them in high school.
If all you did was skim it in high school, go back. Read it again.
See, and that's the thing, because depending on which one of you made the best argument, they're going to choose one to go back to.
And if I win, I will make a lane cake for the next Anselm event.
Ooh.
Bribery!
Bribery.
That was such a Gatsby kind of thing
I'll bring
to
a
do.
whole bunch of bootleg liquor.
Oh,
Okay.
bribery. All right, audience, tell us who won. And things are winding down now at the Anselm Digital Pub. The fire is down to embers, the customers are trundling home, and honestly, the bartender has all but kicked us out due to our animated conversation. At least you polished off your final glass before that happened. Anyway, once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. To find out more about the Anselm Society, please visit us at anselmsociety.org. And while you're at it, please rate and review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.